You're ready to be premature all over again.
Wow, that's impressive.
Quick
bro.
reset. Quick reset.
Last night was Ramos Jizz.
Who knew the job was pro bono?
I was so high that I shit myself at some point.
Okay, it's doing here. Somebody, everybody mute. Goddamn, you killing me.
My SEAL Team 6 went to SEAL Team 12.
There's nothing wrong with punching above your weight.
I thought you'd get better.
Well,
I don't know what's worse. You're a ginger or you've been vaccinated.
You sit around and drink and solve the world's problems, right?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Season 3, A Spirited Debate. We're here. We're excited. You probably can't tell.
God damn it, Beavis, I got wood.
I will slap the bejesus out of you.
That's right. All right.
Smear.
Smear.
Cassie Meerkat.
That's it. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are in the studio once again. Season 3, A Spirited Debate, is about to kick off. Now, in case you weren't listening, just recently we did our 100th episode. We closed out season 2 with our 100th episode all time. And then we thought we would go ahead and reset, come back for season 3. Unfortunately, we met as a group and we felt like we had to trim the fat. So Haas is no longer with us. We are now the Cuatros Jinetes. So I'm joined with Mac and Grinch. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. But the show, we persevere.
Mm-hmm.
We move on. We keep going.
Rotten this monster part 2.
That's it. That's
I was
it.
gonna say, haven't we done this shtick already?
Yes.
Fine, all right.
Shit now?
He's not gone.
He's not
just
gone.
here.
He is unfortunately, with some issues, family-related issues, and so he could not be here today. We understood, we did talk about it as a group, and he had to take a moment to, do what was best for him and his family, so they are dealing with that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a shot of Botox will tighten his sphincter muscle back
There
up.
you go.
He'll be good to go next week, hopefully.
I'd say our thoughts and prayers, but seeing as 100% of us don't really believe in God, I'm not sure that prayers is the answer here. So our thoughts definitely go out to him and his family. And we hope that everything is okay and that he will be back in the studio with us real soon. His absence notwithstanding, the three of us are here. It is the launch of season 3. Whole new year, whole new set of topics. Today is going to be a banger. Or someone's getting banged. I don't know, but it's going to be a good one. That's all that matters.
Not yet.
No,
I still haven't started my OnlyFans page. So.
That's
really,
why.
because I've seen that out there already. So somebody's making
That
money
was
off of
bootleg.
you.
That was bootleg. That's deep fake shit.
We are happy to be here.
Right.
We are happy to be here. Mac has been traveling. He just rolled in on the Learjet, was able to make it into the studio at the last minute. We're glad that you're here. Grinch, you and I thought we may be starting season 3, just you and I. And
thought or hope.
I was gonna say in about 15 or 20 minutes, you may be wishing you were starting season 3 with just the 2 of you.
Yes, but the Horsemen are back for season 3. New intro. We are happy to be here. You've heard it. It's exciting. We've got a whole shitload of things planned for season 3 that we had, we wanted to roll out in season 2, but shit happens. Life gets in the way and we move on. So here we are in season 3. Gentlemen, I'm happy that you're here. How is everybody doing today?
Feeling very good. Thank you, sir.
Feeling very good. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You know what? That was respectful and low key.
We got to keep professionalizing.
Okay.
Can't just be rando yelling oddball
screaming,
shit.
boom,
Who does that?
shakalaka, waking the neighbors.
It's just weird.
It is.
Boom shakalaka.
All right. You remember when you said maybe 15 minutes we wish you weren't here? 37 seconds. That's you made it. You made it 37 seconds. Look, we're excited to be here. It is season 3. Were we going to make it this long? We didn't know. We talked about that in our 100th episode. 4 hours on the 100th episode. Gentlemen, you really powered through that day.
Was it really 4 hours?
It was actually
40 minutes of it.
It was actually over 4, but I actually edited it down to about 3 hours and 50 minutes. So we're right at 4 hours for that episode. We had 6 guests. I think it was 6 guests. Phenomenal content from all of you, from our guests. Thank you so much to each and every one of them for joining us for the 100th episode. And I want to say a shout out. I know we said it. I'm going to say it again for the fancies. The song was phenomenal. Thank you for the song drop. Our 100th episode celebration.
Is
rap,
that climbing
rap
up the
was outstanding.
Yeah, I was going to say
Super
we need to
appreciative.
get that shit on Spotify.
And then Jason Howe coming strong. I mean, he came correct with that rap out of nowhere. Was not expecting that. Didn't know he had the talent, and hopefully he will be showcasing it again for us here in season 3. We're going to be doing down the road, just a quick teaser. Down the road, Big Mac, Jason Howe, rap battle. That's what I'm thinking. Rap battle. Yep.
Yeah,
I think we can do it. All right. And then we're going to have, of course, Grinch in the back dropping sick beats for both of them as they rap, as he did. But definitely go and check that out. Our 100th episode just dropped. And here we are back, season 3. New drinks, same wonderful cast, new set of topics to debate as we move into 2022, 2023. Looking forward to this one. So I'm glad everybody's here. Glad we're professional, except for your boom shakalaka Mac. But let's jump into our drinks. So Mac, you know what? I know you just stepped off the Learjet. You made it into the studio, brother. What concoction was handed to you by the valet as you stepped through the door?
So just to be clear, we did have to sell the Learjet this weekend. You know, I did make it into a package store down in Georgia. And I had to take out a second mortgage. We had to sell the Learjet. Take out a second mortgage on the house. Man, is it wonderful to shop in a non-regulated, liquor store. Rolled up in there, and dude's got like 20 bottles of Buffalo Trace sitting there, a couple bottles of Eagle Rare. I'm just like, this is nice.
Yeah, except the picture you sent was a case of Eagle Rare. The box. It was the box. It was a case of Eagle Rare.
He did give me the box because we were joking about, I talked to the guy for a few minutes because the girls were shopping, and, in that case, I'm going to go do my shopping.
Right.
So, he was joking about being in an ABC state, and he said, well, I noticed you're not getting an Eagle Rare. And I told him, I already had a bottle that I haven't even opened yet. And he said, but let me give you this box. And he said, you can, because you probably can't even get the box back in North Carolina. I said, no, you're right. I can't. So I'm gonna cut that out, frame it, hang it on the wall here in the studio one day. But no, so I did not purchase any bourbon, really, because I've got a lot that I still need to plow through. But did pick up a couple of smaller things. One of them being a peanut butter whiskey. Screwball.
That's the Screwball,
mix.
right?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple different brands,
that.
but I think Screwball is the most famous one. So that's what I went with. I picked that up. I picked up a kind of a grape liqueur. The guy suggested to pair with the peanut butter whiskey. I guess kind of gives you that peanut butter and jelly flavor. Cool. And then I picked up the Bailey's salted caramel because I've never seen that around here. And Grinch, I know you mentioned that was really good. So I picked up all those, but to answer your question, the longest way possible.
Thank you.
I made a peanut butter cup whiskey cocktail. So using the Screwball peanut butter whiskey, added a little bit of creme de cacao and milk. You shake it up, and you can drizzle the cup with chocolate. Of course, it all settles at the bottom, unfortunately.
Nice.
But it's pretty good. I would definitely put this in the rotation as a nice, cool, kind of sweet drink.
Very nice.
Excellent.
All right. And this is, what is this again?
The
name?
Reese's Peanut Butter
Reese's Peanut
Whiskey.
Butter. Okay, so does it taste like a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup type thing, or is that
a little bit?
Okay, because with the name, obviously.
Yeah, I mean that's the flavor they're going for, and it's definitely similar.
Okay, very nice. Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
I might, because I followed the instructions. Next time, I might kind of, dial back the chocolate liqueur a little bit, so the peanut butter flavor comes through a little bit more. So I'm getting way more chocolate
As you get some reps,
yeah,
get it dialed in.
Yeah, getting.
I mean, your margarita should be
flavor.
like perfection by now.
What's that?
Instead, your margarita should be perfection by now.
They are when I use a pre-made mix.
You could do those in your sleep. Like,
yeah, right.
All right. So let's go ahead and move on to Grinch, brother. What did you bring for the inaugural season 3 episode?
Yeah, it's kind of an amalgamation of a few different things that is on the Malibu website. Because they've got some really straightforward simple drinks like a Malibu mojito, a Malibu and tonic, and that kind of thing. So I took some peach, muddled it, and then I added Malibu and that Passoa. It's that kind of passion fruit or dragon fruit, whatever the fuck it is, flavored liqueur. And what else did I add? Shit, I feel like there was something else. And some coconut juice, and I shook that up, and then poured it into the glass, and then I topped it with some club soda. And I don't know what you'd call this. It's not a Bay Breeze. It's somewhere in between a few things.
It's a Grinch Breeze,
good.
But
Yeah,
it's
Grinch
pretty
Breeze.
good. Yeah,
there you go. All right, so you combined a couple of recipes together to get what you wanted.
Yeah, that Passoa I've had for a while, so I was trying to work it into something, and just so happened there was a peach on the counter, so I was like, screw it, let's do this.
You know what? At the end of the day, we're in season 3. I'm tired of Googling fucking drinks online. I'm just going to start making my own shit,
Right?
which is what I did today. I was just like, you know what? I looked through. I'm sorry, Mac. What were you going to say, brother?
No, I was going to say, it just looked like you took a dump in a cup.
Yeah, I mean, how do you make a drink?
Look, I'm not judging. I'm just,
Good.
2 Thors in a cup.
That's it. That's it. Based on our topic
I
today,
am not paying for that on OnlyFans.
Based on our topic
'Cause I
today
can
and
see
where
it for
I
free.
know you're going to fall, yeah, you definitely shouldn't be talking shit about nothing. Just saying. So can I do is it okay if I do my drink? Remember, he said at the outset, professionalism. That's what we're doing this season. Can I do
Oh,
my
you
drink?
know I didn't mean it, though.
Oh, I was going to say.
You're supposed to be on my side.
I'm just here to throw fuel on whatever fires are burning the brightest.
Should we talk about paying college athletes?
Athletes getting paid. I remember that episode, what he did. He just like, let me poke the bear and then step back and watch. Motherfucker. All right, so let me do
Thor,
my
what
drink.
did you bring to the table today?
Thank you, Mac. I appreciate that. I didn't bring a Reese's peanut butter cup concoction like you did, but that's okay.
All right, well, moving right along then.
Yes. Okay. Are you taking over? I'll let you take over.
No, go right
It'd be
ahead.
nice for you to just steer the ship once in a while. Feel free.
All right. You two's the best band in the land. What else y'all gonna want to talk about?
Hey, I just got my hands on the oar. You guys are doing the steering here.
Okay.
Look, I don't want to know. I don't need to know where your hands are.
That's
And
right.
it's at full throttle.
And check.
And
check.
I'm impressed that you're comparing it to an oar.
As they
That's
say
right.
in the Air Force, all thrust, no vector.
That's it. So back to me and my drink.
Oh,
Yeah, let's go for that.
Yes.
Thanks. So I wanted to use tequila today, and I was trying to think of something I could do. And I actually, Grinch, when you and I were online the other night, I drank this. I thought, I figured I'd give it a shot ahead of time and see if it was worth it. I like tequila sunrise, tequila, grenadine, orange juice. And so I thought I would do my kind of own version of it. It's the Spirited Debates Tequila Sunset, because we just closed out season 2. Okay. So we sunsetted season 2 and we're moving into season 3. So it is basically the same ingredients. It is grenadine, orange juice, and tequila. I used the Rock's Terramana Reposado tequila, which I keep in the freezer so it's nice and chilled. And so I put grenadine in the glass, a little tequila, and by little I mean 3 ounces, and then 3 ounces of orange juice, put in the ice, and then I actually topped it off with a little Fever Tree ginger beer, just for shits and giggles, just to give it a little extra flavor, a little carbonation, a little fizz. So that's what I'm doing. And then you can't see them, but the cherries are on top. And so that's what it is. It is the Tequila Sunset, the Spirited Debate Tequila Sunset.
So is that more of an orangish red color? Because it's hard to tell, and that's why I wondered, because it looked more chocolatey when you
Yeah.
held it up earlier.
It is. It's
Okay.
the phenomenal lighting in the studio here.
So
It's
you're,
hard to
you're
tell.
getting a mouthful of grenadine at the end.
Oh yeah, for sure. You might want to go
Unless
get
you
a
drink
Better
it with
than
a
what
straw.
Mac's getting a mouthful of.
It might be grenadine after you're
or as
you're
I
done
heard it
processing
called,
it.
a sippy cylinder.
Mm-hmm. So it is the Spirited Debate Tequila Sunset. So
Okay.
it was interesting because I looked up Tequila Sunset, and there apparently is a drink out there. And when I read the ingredients and the directions to make it, it's identical to the Sunrise. And I'm like, how the fuck is that different? That's the same
Drink one
fucking
in the
thing.
morning and one
Somewhere
at
out
One at
there-
night, maybe.
night. Yeah.
There's a bartender like you going, I made a new drink. And they're like, all you did was change the order it went in.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's new.
It's a new drink.
That's right. Fuckers. So that's what I'm having. So, gentlemen, as always, before we start, season 3 is no different. Cheers to you. Cheers to
Cheers,
Haas. I
gentlemen.
shall pour some out for our homie.
Yeah, he would not want you to.
And by poured out, I mean drink it.
Fair enough.
All right. So as we say at the outset, the train is leaving the station. Let's go to work. All right. So our topic today, I would have loved to have had Haas on for this one. Not sure where he falls, but the topic is just recently, and I say just recently, I should just check that. This
4 days ago?
Something like that. I was trying to see. There is actually, yes, August 2nd. So on loudwire.com, there was a report that was released on loudwire.com August 2nd of this year. And the title is Report Shows Only 5 Artists Sold More Tickets Than Metallica Over the Last 40 Years. And when you read into the article, it talks about a company called Pollstar, and they do a number of polls related to, I'm assuming, at least for this article, music and the like. And so they have been around 40 years. In celebration of Pollstar's 40th anniversary, they apparently released a number of polls. The first was a chart showing the top touring artists based on gross ticket sales. The second is based on the number of tickets sold. And there is some criteria. They only counted headline shows, and they discounted any festival appearances, any shows where they were in support of another act, co-headlining tours and such. So it had to be a standalone. They were the only headliner, and it covered the last 40 years. And so it listed that Metallica was 6th on the chart, and the 5 that preceded them were, I won't, in no particular order, because I actually don't know exactly. I think U2 was number 1. Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. I think U2 was listed as number 1.
I've looked at several different lists kind of based off this Pollstar. So I think all of them are just a little bit different. So I can't say which one you're
So
looking
we'll say
at.
in no particular order.
Yeah, I know in one of them I'm looking at, the Rolling Stones were number 1 and
Okay.
U2 was number 2. But this is which acts made the most money from touring over the last 40 years.
And this is related to ticket sales. And I don't know, because I'm assuming
most
the criteria may be different.
Ticket sales
Right.
plus merchandise or what? Yeah.
So this is ticket sales. So it is in no particular order: U2, the Rolling Stones, Elton John, Bruce Springsteen, and Dave Matthews Band. And then Metallica comes in 6th. So the 5 ahead of them, I don't know the particular order. I believe U2 is listed first in the article, but you're muted, Grinch, or you're just singing to yourself. I'm not sure.
I was. It's U2, Dave Matthews, Rolling Stones, Bruce Springsteen, and the
Elton
Elton
John.
Band, Elton John, then Metallica.
Okay. So there's your order, and then Metallica rounds it out at 6. So, of course, this article gets sent out. I believe, Grinch, it was by you.
Mm-hmm.
He sends it out. And then there was a heated debate going back and forth about where should the bands have fallen in the order. And yes, some of this is personal for me. It's personal for Mac. I imagine it's personal for Grinch.
You didn't hear my when I sent it.
He's like, I can't wait. It's going to be good.
Oh, internet, you have gifted me a present.
And so this article went out, and of course we went back and forth. So we thought, hey, you know what? This is a topic that clearly needs to be debated in the open, not just through text. So here we are today discussing what bands are in the top, and is the order correct? And should it be the way it is? Now, Mac will tell you U2's 1. Absolutely. He's a diehard U2 fan.
Okay. And you're right. I am a diehard U2 fan. There's no doubt about that. I like Metallica. Don't get me wrong.
Yes. And you said that through the course of the week.
At the end of the day, this isn't
Numbers don't
Mac's
lie.
list. Yeah. Math is math. I mean, the numbers add up.
Okay, wait a minute. Now, here's where the debate begins, because I'm not disputing, and I like you too. I like you too.
Debate math.
Absolutely, you can, because it is the criteria in which the company is
that's
using
not the math.
Is going
that's
to
the
dictate.
Criteria.
Yes, it is, because the math is dictated by the criteria.
2 plus
100%.
2 is 4.
The math
it doesn't matter
dictates
what the criteria is.
The criteria absolutely dictates the outcome. It dictates the result.
So if I change the criteria, then 2 plus 2 equals 12.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Fucking hell,
absolutely.
How do you argue with
There's
somebody
2
like
people
this,
running
Rich?
around with goalposts.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're constantly moving him. You're trying to justify the math. The math and the criteria
I don't have
honestly,
to justify the math.
the math and the
math
criteria have
justifies
nothing to do
itself.
with the conversation.
I got a
The
feeling,
math doesn't.
Thor, you're going to unpack some of this,
Oh,
but
you're fucking goddamn right I am.
but focusing on the article itself where it did say, well, all right, let me back up. I think
Yes.
what we're going to be doing is taking issue with the fact that this list came out, but it came out with those caveats, which we believe skews.
Thank you. And that is all I'm saying.
Yes.
Now, maybe you did it in a
Shit.
more professional way than I did, but yes, the criteria will skew the results in anything. If it's political, if it's music, if it's whatever.
Well, then go make your own list with your own criteria that justifies Metallica being number one. Then.
I'm not saying Metallica should be number one. I'm not saying that. I don't know. I'm saying by adjusting the criteria, you are absolutely skewing the results in anything. Look, Mac, and you talked about math. If I say let's take a movie, box office, and I say, okay, this movie gets released around the world, but I'm going to take China out of the equation. Well, then that's going to skew the results of how much that movie made at the box office. So therefore, the criteria definitely affects the math. Would you not agree with that? If I take an entire market
I'll allow
out,
that.
right? So that's what I'm saying, that criteria dictates the outcome. Yes, math is math, 100% 2 + 2 = 4.
Right.
But when the criteria affects the equation, then your math is now different. That's all I'm saying, is by taking that out of it.
Then who justifies what the criteria is?
Well, here
And
in
that's
this
why,
case,
and that's why we made the point that we've read several different. Like I'm looking at the list of Pollstar of which acts made the most money touring over the last 40 years.
right,
And that actually has Metallica at number 9.
right. I saw
And that's
that one as well.
below Celine Dion.
Yes,
I just wanted to point that out.
which I don't think Celine Dion's really toured in the last decade. She's been in Vegas doing Vegas shows.
Does that count as a tour though? And I think that's the point you're trying to get at, right?
Right. Is if I'm Pollstar,
is a
and I say
residency
yes,
considered a tour?
but I think if I'm Pollstar and I'm counting that, I would say yes. People are actively seeking out tickets to that show, even though she never moves. They're actively seeking out tickets, so they chose to count it.
Well,
but I don't necessarily agree with that.
Is this isn't most tickets. This is which acts made the most money from touring over the last 40 years. And to your point, again, as we discussed, is that based off just ticket sales? Is that based off of ticket sales plus merchandise sales?
Right.
What is that?
Well,
but apparently, according to this, Pollstar has been the Bible of the touring music industry for 4 decades now. So apparently they need to get their shit together because they have like
that's what
10
I'm
different
saying.
Lists.
If you're going to be listed that way, then you should absolutely have your shit together.
All right, then back to those caveats. I guess how do you pull out ticket data if it's like a headlining a Lollapalooza or co-headlining or something like that?
And do you?
They're not counting it. No, they're not.
Oh, I know. They're just flat out not counting it because I don't know that there's a good answer for how you would.
Well, no, please. I apologize. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, then the question becomes, what about resale? Are you counting just the initial face value ticket sale of that ticket, which we know in many cases, those are bought up by other companies and then resold at a, high markup. So are they counting that markup from like the StubHubs and ticket,
Vivid Seat and
Vivid Seats, thank you. Yeah. Or are they just saying based off of, we're going to say you sold 60,000 tickets to this concert at face value of, $70 a piece. Well, and they're not going to take into account the secondary market.
To your point, I don't know the answer to that, but something that was interesting to me is, all right, so the highest grossing tour in the last 20 years is Ed Sheeran. Actual gross at the time was 776 million, but he did 255 shows.
That's a road dog right there.
That's from 2017 to 2019. And then
Metallica probably made the same amount of money in like 10 shows.
The one that caught my eye was actually Rolling Stones, which I'll get to in just a second. But number 2 is U2, 736 million, 421 actual gross. Adjusted for inflation would be 887 million. Ed Sheeran would be 822 million. But U2 did 110 shows. But you jump to number 5, the Rolling Stones, 17 through 21. They did 58 shows, grossing adjusted 579 million. So they literally did like less than a fourth of the shows.
Right.
And
Well,
charged
it's
an
all about
ass load for their tickets.
Yeah, and it's all about what venue they're playing, right? Obviously, the Rolling Stones, U2, Metallica are probably playing huge venues, stadium tours. Whereas I doubt Ed Sheeran is doing the same thing. So he's going to have to work twice as hard
He
to
might, though.
sell as many.
At that point, he might have been playing.
Average attendance per show for Ed Sheeran was 34,496. Average attendance per show for U2 was 66,110.
Yeah, so
because U2 was playing in stadiums.
Yeah, massive venues.
Right, massive venues.
Right.
So they could play half as many shows and still have the same amount of people.
Right. So that being said, I just, want to throw through a couple of numbers. And again, because criteria being relevant to the equation, I think one of the things, and this is an argument I had with my daughter, and I understood in principle the point, but by controlling the criteria, you control the outcome. Is one of the things they remove from the equation is festivals. And I understand if you have 20 bands in a festival and Grinch is buying a ticket to go see, Rage Against the Machine, and Metallica's on the same bill, right? Metallica would benefit from that. But I think as a festival tour, if you're the headliner, and I know, like, we'll take Lollapalooza as an example. Now, Lollapalooza is a multi-day festival, but at its inception, Lollapalooza was a one-day festival and there was a headliner. And in 96, when Metallica headlined Lollapalooza, it was a one-day festival in every city, and it was in 26 cities that year. Metallica was the single standalone headliner, but they're getting no benefit from those 26 shows because they're including no festival count. So that's the part where I talk about the skew of the data. Now, the largest... Go ahead, brother.
Well, I was going to say, what constitutes a festival then, right? Because if you're saying that they're the headliner, and this is where I have to unfortunately agree with you, right? Hold on, I have to take a drink to do this.
Yeah, do that. Take two drinks, 2 sips.
If there's a headliner, I think it no longer becomes a festival, right? You have multiple opening acts, but
well, actually, I think I want to disagree with the way you're going about that. In terms of headlining, I see as whoever closes out the festival. So I think that's where they get that moniker of, as opposed to, you're going to see a Metallica or a U2, but Muse opens. It's clearly not a festival, right? I mean,
right. It's 3 artists.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like a co-headlining tour.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I think anything that's like a festival is going to be like your Lollapalooza, your Rock Fest,
your Welcome to Rockville, your Aftershock,
yeah,
Monster Energy Tour, and I get it, and it's tough to then quantify objectively. Okay, why did you buy tickets? What was the band in which people? So I understand that, but the largest show that U2 has ever played was to 150,000 attendees. It was the Pop Mart Tour. And I believe 2014, I think it was in 2014, the Pop Mart Tour, it was out of the country and it was 150,000 attendees. Metallica in 91 played the Monsters of Rock in Russia to 1.6 million attendees. And they don't
skewing the numbers to try and justify you what you're saying.
They don't count it. They don't count it because there were multiple major acts. It was Metallica, AC/DC, Guns N' Roses. There were major acts. So Metallica, they discount that 1.6 million because it's a festival, one day, but it's one day, multiple acts. Even if you're the headliner, I'm sorry, we don't count it.
But I think you bring up another. I think you touched on something else there too. Some of these acts are international, right? I mean, your U2, your Metallica, they're playing all over the world,
right?
Whereas you have other acts that are probably a little more limited. I don't want to say just the U.S., but they're not global, acts, so it's a little bit harder for them to get the same numbers,
right?
I mean, to your point,
I don't know that the Rolling Stones are playing all over the world anymore, are they?
Well, I mean, they toured.
They're getting propped up on stage.
17 to 21,
yeah,
doing 58 shows, and I mean, a 2.5-3 year span. I have to imagine it's worldwide. And I think that's the only way you get those numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny.
As I look at this whole list, every single one of them had like a multi-year. Well, actually, Taylor Swift was the only one. It looks like that in 2018 did 53 shows. She's 19th on the list.
That's because T Swizzle can do no wrong.
That's
Right.
true. That's true.
So it's funny that you mentioned that because I actually Googled that. So we'll take just the COVID era from 20 to 22, that 3-year span. How many shows did U2 play? Mac, go. 3 years, how many shows?
3 years.
That was the COVID era.
I'm going to say 5, if that many.
Grinch?
I think it was 2019.
They actually
which was
played
pre-COVID.
They played 6. There were 6 shows they played. So Mac, real fucking close.
According to the Price is Right rules, I win.
There you go.
Closest without going over.
So yes.
$1.
So how many shows did Metallica play in that same time span?
If only somebody could tell us.
I'm going to. I'm asking you to guess. I want to see. Mac was real close. Maybe he'll be close again, Mac.
I'm going to say 52.
52. Grinch?
51.
See, there we go.
It was 63. 63.
Damn it. You want to get
I'm going over.
Now, Dave Matthews is also on that list. Do you know how many shows they played in that same 3-year span? I won't make you guess. 124.
I was going to say it's going to be because he's
124.
I mean, that man tours.
Right. But so you look at that and you go, okay, they're playing 6 shows versus Metallica playing 63 shows. Got another number for you. Average ticket cost for a U2 show. What is it, Mac? Go. Average ticket price.
Average ticket price, $122.
Grinch.
Yeah,
And don't say $120.
Yeah, I would say it's probably in that ballpark. That'd be my guess. I'll go like 90.
$177. Same question for Metallica.
And that's why I've only been to
60.
one show, by the way.
How much?
60.
60.
$60.01.
$273.
Really?
But again, are you talking face value or resale value?
They don't give you that information. Again,
and
this is my point, right? Right here we go. Back to what I said.
Thing.
Criteria is important.
Yes.
It dictates everything. To say that there's $100 disparity and that Metallica has played more shows in the 4-decade span, according to concertarchive.com, U2 has played 1,816 shows since their inception in 1976. Metallica, since their inception in 1981, have played 2,179. So if you take those two sets of numbers by the average ticket price, you go, how is it even possible that U2 has made more or done more? But
and I assume, is that all like adjusted to 2022
numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's also, as you said, and I don't remember which one it was, what was the average concert attendance for U2? 66,000?
66,110.
Again, criteria being relevant, because if you're playing an average show to 30,000 and U2's playing the average 60,000, well, then that $100 disparity goes away real fucking quick, in terms of that. But ticket sales, this is why I said at the outset, criteria is absolutely imperative to understanding why we got to where we got. Now, U2, phenomenal band in their own right, been around since 1976. They're clearly playing to 66,000 on average. There you go. But when I looked at it and I read the article, I went, how is that possible? And then when you read the criteria and going, okay, well, they're discounting certain aspects. Of course, you're going to arrive at a very specific number.
Because I don't think U2 typically plays. I mean, I'm not going to say they've never played any festivals. They've played a couple, but that is not typically their wheelhouse.
Hey, Mac, I love that you mentioned that because I Googled that too.
See, I was trying to tee you up, brother.
Can you tell me the first festival ever since 1976, the first festival that U2 played? Look at Mac. He's over there. He's like, I think I got it.
I can't. I think I know it, but I can't think of the name of it.
Give me the year.
81.
Say
81.
No. Well. Oh. Okay. Live Aid might be the first festival they've ever played, if we're counting Live Aid as a festival.
The first festival on record is Bonnaroo in 2017.
And Bonnaroo was the name I completely drew a blank on. But again, and I hate to have to go back to this and agree with you, criteria matters. Why is Live Aid not a festival?
I don't know, but
Well,
41
Right?
years.
That would have been technically the first one they played.
41 years.
That was your question. So you set the criteria. So why are you not counting
Live Aid?
Yeah.
Again, I'm just telling you what it says is the first festival that they played.
Right.
I'm not setting the criteria. I'm just regurgitating what I've read in terms of the factual account of it. Can you tell me Metallica's first festival? Now, 41 years from inception to the festival in U2, right? Took them 41 years to play a festival by this account. Metallica, 1981. What was the first festival? No,
Rockfest.
It was the Aardschok Festival overseas in 1984. 1984. And they've been playing festivals ever since. And that's what I'm saying. When you discount a whole cross section of concerts they've played, it's going to skew the criteria.
But that's their fault for not playing. Why are they playing festivals? They could be making way more money.
Certainly you grow your fan base. I mean, we're not necessarily walking over into like merchandise and records and all that, but I mean, you grow your fan base is the straightforward answer. But I did find it interesting that U2's first archived concert was for 1,440 patrons at the Warfield Theater in San Francisco in 1981 during the band's October tour, supporting their second studio album.
And Mac, please understand, this is nothing. I'm not trying to take anything away from you two. You've been around 46 years. Clearly, you're doing something right. I'm just saying, when you look at it, because I am a fan of Metallica, I was surprised Dave Matthews. At least you go, well, Elton got started in the late 60s, early 70s. The Rolling Stones have been around since the dawn of time. Bruce Springsteen, late 60s, early 70s. And then you get to a band like Dave Matthews and you go, 91. Like they haven't even been around for fucking decades.
But again, he tours like a
religiously
dog. I mean, he's, well, and are you counting all of the shows he did, at the college level back in Charlottesville? Because that's where he got started, right? So if you start counting all of those tours, all of the shows he did there,
that changes things even more. Yeah, but he was probably doing those for beer money and shit. I mean, if we're honest.
Yeah, but still.
Well, and I will say, I agree in that U2 is a phenomenal band. I mean, they really are, just their staying power and, the scope of some of their shows and how they changed, what a tour looks like and just adding a lot to it. But yeah, I absolutely agree with the point. Like the larger point being, you see these polls, a lot of people start spouting them off and you go, I've got a couple of questions.
Right. That was me.
But I will say this to give Metallica credit. They're the highest ranking metal band. And if you think about like widespread appeal, you go from a U2 to a Dave Matthews, a Rolling Stones, to a Bruce Springsteen, to an Elton John, to Metallica. It's pretty impressive.
One of these is not like the other.
Yeah, you're talking about, a lot of pop, because, let's be honest, U2, pop rock, maybe you could put them in that genre, but they are still kind of more of pop. Metallica is all rock. Yes. And if you ask somebody, hey, name me the most popular rock brand of all time, that's probably going to be the one that most people are going to spout off. Now, you're going to have other people that are going to have their little, tangents of, why this, band is better than, the Metallica, but everybody knows Metallica.
Look, number 11 is the Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Why are we not talking about that?
I mean, Aerosmith is further down on the list. I would have thought Jimmy Buffett might be higher, but I guess he doesn't tour as much.
Probably.
Neil Diamond at 16, Coldplay at 17. And then, of course, ironically on this list, Ed Sheeran's 20th, but granted, he hasn't been around nearly as long either, so he's just getting into this.
But to get on the list.
You start talking about Neil Diamond, that's when I think you have to start bringing back in the Vegas residencies, right? Because, I mean, God, he's been in Vegas for how long now?
Well, my wife is a huge fan of the Killers, and they do, they have a residency in Vegas because that's where they're from. And so they play out of Vegas, and then they do tours, but they play shows right there in Vegas because that's their hometown. Great band. I like the music. I'm just saying.
But is that really considered a residency? I don't.
Well,
I mean, I guess what justifies you as a residency
Back to criteria.
other than being you're a resident of Las Vegas,
Right.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, and I'll just heaping on praise on a lot of these artists. With an Ed Sheeran, I mean, he's the face of it, right? So if he's game on, the thing's going to happen. Like they can change out probably any number of backup, performers. But a U2 whose lineup, to my knowledge, I don't think their lineup's changed. I may be wrong.
You're talking about their like the musicians.
Yeah, U2 the band. I don't know that their lineup has changed.
It is not since the actual official inception of U2.
Yeah, which is incredible. I mean, same for the Rolling Stones.
Elton John, his hasn't changed. Neither is Bruce.
Right. Well, I mean,
or Madonna or Celine
prices,
Dion. I mean, you want to start playing that card.
Right.
Bruce Springsteen, is getting some flack over this dynamic ticket pricing, which I think is horseshit as well. I mean, there's a couple of bands on here I'm really happy not to see because this our fifth last time down the road, you're like, this is some bullshit.
Uncle Sam wants his tax money, so we got to go on tour again.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've heard about the dynamic pricing, but I'm not super, up to speed on that. Can you explain that to me?
I can't right in this second, but I will try.
Like live golf. It's hard to explain. You just know it occurs.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and I think Grinch, as you were saying, like when I saw the article, when the article first hit me, I was like you said, I have a couple questions, and of course, as you read it and it talks about, their approach and again, the criteria and things like that, you begin to go, okay, well, as with anything, criteria is going to be relevant and it's going to skew the numbers a very specific way. Again, you could make the argument, well, it's 4 decades. Let's say 1982 to today. That's 4 decades. Well, Metallica started in 81, 82, right? U2 starts in 76. So they've had 5-6 years to develop a fan base. So when they start touring and, when they're doing tours in 81, 82 timeframe, when the 40-year mark starts, they've already got a fan base. Assumed fan base, because I don't know.
And you have to also kind of, I think, I hate to almost use this word, but their music kind of transcends fan bases a little bit, right? Because it is kind of that approach. It is kind of that pop rock, right?
It appeals to a broader audience,
right? Yep. Whereas Metallica is more, they've had some of those kind of crossover, and I think that's a better way to call it, the crossover hits, right? Especially off the Black album, and you see, of course, now with Stranger Things, a whole new fan base being introduced to Metallica. But I think that has to help as well, right? Because they're a little more universally accepted. U2 is because of the kind of music they play,
right? I'm surprised a couple of artists you don't see on there, like no Garth Brooks, no Kenny Chesney, like country artists that have been at the top of Chesney, that genre.
Yeah,
McGraw was at 19.
He'd be another one. I'd be like, yeah, it should be on there.
I saw Kenny Chesney. Kenny Chesney was 9.
Okay, so in the top 10.
I don't know if this explains everything, but while the practice of shifting prices for concerts and events based on market demand, similar to Uber's surge pricing, might feel like a new post-pandemic practice, it's actually been happening for several years now. Back in 2018, Taylor Swift fans were disappointed to learn that the only way they could secure a ticket to her tour was to agree to whatever often outrageous prices the dynamic pricing system spit out at them. And so I think it's a bit of like you're committing to the ticket with the understanding that the more it's going up and down, like that price could change. So the ticket, if everything's in motion, there's a lot of activity like stock market trading, the prices start soaring, and as the more it stabilizes, the more.
But once you lock in your ticket, once you purchase your ticket, you're locked into that.
It's done, right?
Like if they glanced at it and said, "Hey, it's 3 months out, maybe I'll just wait," and then it goes from $5.95 to a $9.95.
Right. And I think that's no different than the secondary ticket market, right? I mean, those companies that buy up a bunch of tickets, and then as they get closer and they realize there's a very small supply of tickets left, they jack their prices up. So, I mean,
they actually said its intent is to squeeze out the secondary ticket market
by just doing exactly what the secondary ticket market's doing,
right?
So they can't gobble up tickets and then do this, but
so they're trying to monopolize the sales.
Yeah, one of the
essence.
examples was in early 2020, My Chemical Romance fans were hit hard by dynamic pricing for the band's reunion tour, with pit tickets that were originally priced at $200 going up to as much as $1,000.
Jesus. But again, this
Look,
is back to like the average ticket price, right? If you're looking at Metallica, it's $100 difference between theirs and U2. Does the criteria of that account for festival shows? Because festivals generally charge a higher price because you're getting more bands across multi-days. Is that factored into that higher ticket price? Are those just single one-off shows where they're the headliner and that's it? I mean, that's the part I don't know. And that's what it does call into question, those things that make you look at the data and go, I'm not sure how they arrived at this. And that's all I was trying to bring to the table with this entire debate was criteria is absolutely relevant to the conversation.
Well, I mean, we've said it here a number of times. There's nothing wrong with having a healthy skepticism towards information. Just because it's put in your face doesn't mean there isn't, like we just said, a couple of questions. Just want to confirm a few things.
Clarification as to why we are where we're at.
Here's another quick answer to that question. In the simplest sense, dynamic pricing, also called market pricing, involves cost shifts that are triggered by changes in demand. When demand for a product or service increases, the price goes up. When it diminishes, it falls. Straightforward supply and demand, right? Question mark.
No, and I think
Ticketmaster said, Ticketmaster is claiming that the approach is designed to keep ticket costs reasonable, particularly when it comes to the role of bots and opportunists looking to make money off desperate fans.
No, and I was just going to say, I think your comparison to what Uber does is spot on, because we used them a couple times when we were downtown, and I'd pull it up to get a quick price quote to say, okay, that's worth it, as opposed to walking in 100-degree weather. And then 10 minutes later
to reserve it.
You get everybody ready, and you go and look at it again. You go, well, shit, it's like $3 or $4 more now.
Yeah. Yeah,
but it's still 100 degrees, so I'm paying it.
Right. It was the same when we were down at Universal coming back from there. It said in the note, like,
prices
surge
hour
or
something
along those lines.
So I mean, it's absolutely, it's supply and demand. I mean, if and look, you said something about going up to $1,000. I think if you're willing to pay $1,000 for a ticket,
you certainly
you should be separated from your money because you're an idiot.
Right?
Yes.
So,
and Mac, I want to circle back to what you said just for clarification. I think the reason it was Live Aid was left off the list as a festival in regards to what I was looking at is they were not a headliner. Bonnaroo was the first festival in which they were considered a headliner. And so I think that's why.
But that doesn't change the festival.
I agree.
Aspect,
But I'm just saying, when you said, well, why wasn't Live Aid considered a festival? Because they were not considered a headliner.
But again, I think to your point, this is again, we're in it pains me and I'm out of liquor. I have to agree with you.
I'll drink for you.
A festival should not have a true headliner, right? You might have a headliner for each day of the festival.
Should it count towards tickets?
Well,
that's the ultimate question here. Should the festival count?
I think the point you brought up though is, I may go to Lollapalooza to see the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but U2 was there, so now they get credit for my ticket, even though I didn't come to see them.
Right.
I mean, the only way to really do it is to figure out what the revenue split is based on the band. And then they just get a percentage of that. But, you equate it to the percentage of the tickets. It'd be the only fair way I could think to do it.
Well, because
if you're the closer, that probably means you've negotiated
a higher percentage, as you should,
payout, which only makes sense, because if you're expected to be the key draw to the event, I mean, because I don't know where the cutoff line is, but for some of these festivals, my understanding is, going back to like the history of Slipknot that I didn't even really know when they were with Ozfest, they were on per diem. They weren't even getting a salary. They were
Probably
getting
weren't
enough
playing the main
money
stage.
to be able to keep traveling with the show.
Right.
That was it, and whatever merch you can peddle, along the way.
Right.
Well, I mean, you look at Welcome to Rockville, which occurred in Daytona earlier this year. Metallica headlined not one night, but two. When you're asking a band to headline 2 nights on a festival, on a 3-day festival or 4-day, whatever it was, they're a draw. People are coming for that reason because you're not giving them 1 night, you're giving them 2.
Well, and
as
I think
the headliner closing out that day.
But I think this is where you have to tread lightly, right?
Of course.
There's a difference between the closer and the headliner.
No, but
see, it's a bit of semantics, though.
I know it is, but I think when you have a festival, you have multiple closers, right? You have somebody who's closing Friday night, you have somebody who's closing Saturday night, and you have somebody who's closing Sunday night.
So who would you consider the headliner in that scenario?
I would say there isn't a headliner at that. I mean, if you're going to pick one, I would think you would maybe pick the Sunday night, but I would say that there probably isn't a headliner in that case. And that's maybe why they're leaving out the festivals, because you could have somebody that may show up for a festival for Friday and Saturday and then completely skip U2 on Sunday night. But then now you're getting credit for their ticket.
I mean, I guess to your point, then what I would do if you said that and then you said now do the math to tell me what that means, then I would just give them credit for the 2 nights they were the closer, and then whomever is the 3rd night gets that credit and so on. I mean, like probably a better or a good example is Coachella. Like they build up whoever is going to be that night's big event, whether it is a Billie Eilish or somebody else. So if I'm giving Billie Eilish credit, and I don't know, I mean, there's so many friggin' bands at a Coachella, or, like you get like these 7 different side stages and all that. I mean, that gets even more muddled, but the only way I could think of it is you follow the money.
Well, not only that, but you can even talk back to, and I think, Grinch, you and I talked about this when we talked about Muse at one point. I went to see U2 in Atlanta, and Muse was the opening act at this time. And there were a couple of girls behind me that as soon as Muse was done, they were getting ready to walk out.
They're done.
And thankfully their dad was there and beat some sense into him and said, no, sit back down, because I paid a shit ton of money for this. We're going to watch both bands.
Yeah.
But, clearly they were there only for the opening act. But according to, what we think we know for these statistics, U2 got credit for their ticket.
Right.
Even though they had no desire to see them. Which, of course, though, I was there to see U2. Muse was fantastic. It was my first introduction to them, and I'm glad I saw them. And that's the beauty of the opening act, I guess.
I mean,
so then if we're making the argument and having the discussion and debate about headliners versus closers, Mac, I know, have you seen all 3 episodes of Trainwreck, the Woodstock 99 documentary on Netflix?
I have, yes.
Okay. Have you watched the HBO version?
Not yet. I plan on doing that tonight.
And that's fine. Let's go to Sunday night. Headliner. Who would you have said is the headliner / who would have been the headliner for that day? If you remember.
Well, I don't know everybody that played that day.
I understand.
But based off of what I've seen from the Netflix, I would have said the closing act would have been the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Okay, Grinch, have you watched it?
I haven't seen it.
Okay, so then we won't get into that. Okay, Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Or for that.
So you'd have said they're the closing act. To be even more
specific, Flea's Penis.
Yes, so you'd have said they're the closing act.
They were the closing act. They were the last act to play.
And they actually were not. Megadeth was the closing act on Sunday night of Woodstock 99. And here's why. Red Hot Chili Peppers went on late evening, I think like 9 o'clock or whatever.
Right.
They closed the East stage. Megadeth played later in the day and closed the West stage. They were technically the last act to play Woodstock 99. They would have been what you are coining the closer. Red Hot Chili Peppers was the main draw that day.
Hold on.
And they were the headliner.
And this is where festivals get very
into that
squirrely.
gray area.
So you said the East stage, the West stage.
Mm-hmm.
What was the primary stage?
What they considered the East stage.
Then, based on that, Red Hot Chili Peppers was the closing act.
But they were not the last act to play. So how can you justify?
They were the last act to play on the main stage.
So then anybody that plays after them aren't counted. They don't count. They don't get a say. No vote. Is that what you're saying? Because Megadeth is a big band.
I'm not saying they're not a big band.
I still
they were not as
subscribe.
big at as the Red Hot Chili Peppers at that time. I don't think.
My position is I still subscribe to the notion of or the term headliner, because especially in the hierarchy of the artistic world, you know who the big one is, right? I mean, they're very cognizant of who's at the top of their game at that time, and that's why they get top billing.
As my daughter says, headliner is nothing more than a font size on a poster.
It's
maybe, but I guarantee you,
it's very personal, right? Like I said, those two girls, as far as they were concerned, Muse was the headliner that night.
Yeah,
which is U2, they didn't know.
That's just an immature fan, as opposed to somebody.
Look, I'm not going to argue with you on that. But I'm just making the point of I think it's a very personal thing as to who is the primary act. You Thor, you're talking about Woodstock '99. A lot of people there were there to see Slipknot, who played on Friday night, and a lot of people were there to see
Slipknot didn't play. Korn.
Sorry.
Korn.
New metal.
I was like, Slipknot. Wait, what? Did we watch the same show?
I don't listen to metal.
I know.
And then a lot of people came on, and they actually were not the last act to play.
Korn?
Yes.
On Friday. No, they were early in the day.
Yeah.
I won't say early in the day. They were early in the evening.
It was, early in the evening.
I think Woodstock is the one that complicates all this, because it was it was all headliners, right?
Right.
You didn't get invited to Woodstock if you weren't a big act.
But
that's why Mac says that, it's very personal. No, it's not. The promoters set the lineup, and they're determining headliner.
Well,
they're determining it based on what they think is the best.
On our bell curve, I think you toss Woodstock as an example of anything.
Of course.
Because it was so fucking unique. And it was
But I want to talk about it, because I think we should eventually, at some point, talk about the shit show that was Woodstock.
I'd love to watch it.
And that was our generation's. That was our generation's Woodstock in terms of age, demographic.
And then it was followed up with, what was it? Fire
Festival. Which, you could talk about. I would love to have a conversation about all of that. The shit shows that have been those festivals.
I only used it as an example because, yes, Mac, you're right. You get into that gray area with festivals. When you have multi-stage festivals, you may have a headliner on one stage, but a closer who is the last person. And that's what I think of when you say closer. When Grinch said closer, they're the last act to play at the festival. And so for me, that's the closer.
Well, then technically, at least based on what I know from the video that we watched, because I wasn't there, if you're talking Woodstock, Jimi Hendrix was the closer, because he actually played a video after the Chili Peppers went off stage.
Yeah.
So, if you're talking the last artist to play.
The only time it matters to me in this debate, though, is as it relates to who's getting paid for what. Right. And if Woodstock is probably just this big pot, right? Whereas like a Rockville, Rockfest, some of these other ones, Aftershock, whatever, I see it in two categories. There's some that are so big that it's more about the logistics of how they're going to flow the bands through.
Right.
And an eye towards who's going to be the one wrapping it up at the end, because that's the culmination.
And of course, they're probably making more than
they're getting a larger cut.
It started Saturday morning, right?
And I think, said another way, it'd be like if you said, like right now, I'm trying to think of a band. I don't even know. I can't think of a great example. Smaller band, maybe like more metal. Anyway, I'm not thinking of one right now, but you said, well, Metallica is going to open for them. You'd be like, the fuck? or Slipknot's going to open for those guys. Slipknot doesn't open for anybody right now. That's not how this works. They're too big,
They did their day in the trench.
Right. It's exactly. It isn't about humility. It's about they were that band on that side stage making fucking nothing.
Right.
And now they aren't. So as a fan, it's more like if you just read down the list, you'd know.
Yeah. And that's, I think, why my daughter made the comment that headliner's nothing more than a font size on a poster. And you tend to, your headliners are the big names splashed across the top, and then we kind of go down from there to the fine print
eye
at
chart,
the bottom.
right? Yeah,
right. I'm a huge Seven Dust fan. Love Seven Dust, but in any festival like that, they're never going to be a headliner. They're never going to be the guy closing out a day. They're just not going to be those people. They're always going to be in the smaller print down the line somewhere. And they are probably perfectly happy. The upside to a festival, as we said early on in this episode, was you tend to be able to tap into markets and fan bases you would have never been able to.
Well, yeah, because like I said, you look at, again, we'll go back to the Woodstock, even though I know Grinch is probably tired of us talking about that.
Oh, I'm not tired. I think it's a fascinating topic.
You look
I
at
just
the
think
the number of people or the number of bands that were there. I mean, you had people like Jewel, Sheryl Crow, Korn,
James Brown opened the show.
James Brown, Willie Nelson.
Right.
I mean, that's the point you're trying to get at with a festival is you have a huge melting pot of fans that are going to get introduced to, and that's the beauty of a festival, right?
Right.
You get introduced to music that you may not necessarily listen to.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. This was in July 6th through the 9th. It's the NOS or NOS Alive Festival. Night 1, The Strokes headline, I'm going to say. Night 2, Florence and the Machine. Night 3, Metallica. Night 4, Imagine Dragons.
Right.
Yeah, that's just amongst your headliners, as we're going to call them there. That's a wide array of fan base.
Yeah, because you go below that and you go, okay, DeWeasel. I don't know who DeWeasel is. AIM, I think I know. Two Door Cinema Club, Phoebe Bridges, Caribou.
They're just happy to be on the bill.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the bands you're like, exactly as you said, our name ain't on there.
Now, look, we have digressed wildly from our topic at large, which was ticket sales.
Why U2 is the best band in the world.
Right. Okay. But, if we're talking concerts versus festivals, please go back to season 1, episode 61. It's concert time again. Concert versus festivals debate. And there we do talk about our one-off concert shows with a single headliner and an opening act, better or worse than a festival lineup.
Have we done so many episodes now that we actually don't even remember what we've talked about? You have to go look it up because I saw you looking on your screen to the side. That's fantastic.
Yeah. 100 fucking episodes. How do you keep it all straight?
I
have a running list, so I know. You defer to me. That's how you keep it straight. At the end of the day, taking nothing away from YouTube, to be at the top of that list is phenomenal. To play a show to 150,000 people, phenomenal. And coincidentally, Mac, they also hold the record within the United States for a single standalone show at 97,000. Mm-hmm. So it is not that they are not selling tickets, because they absolutely are. It just kind of boggled my mind that when you think of the popularity of Metallica, and maybe it's because in my consciousness, Metallica is there and U2 is not.
Well, that's it, right? Because it's personal preference.
Of course.
Because like we said at the beginning, I love Metallica, and I threw it out there, earlier this week, the one battle, right? U2's one versus Metallica's one. I don't think there's a winner. I mean, I think they're both.
No, there's a winner. There's a clear winner. Wait, have you seen one in concert?
You're right.
U2's one. Have they performed that when you've seen them in concert?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I know you've seen Metallica's one in concert. So from a concert standpoint, which one was better? I don't know. I've never seen U2. From a
concert visual standpoint,
I would say Tool Schism was better.
I would say Metallica's one is better.
Okay.
But that's because it's designed to be kind of a more visual song.
Approach to the song, right?
Right. So, and my point was going to be that, before I, got shot down there, they're both really good. The train's rolling here. I'm going to keep going, Grant. Sorry.
Yes. No, I wanted to point out
really good songs
on the article I sent out.
It's what you want to hear at
He's
the time.
He's not stopping.
You shouldn't.
Should I mute him? Should I just give me the head?
No,
Go ahead,
I interrupted way too much. I just want to point out that on all these festivals, they list them in this article, and then they write headliners.
So they are listing the headliner.
Okay.
Interesting. So festivals do consider a headlining act. And so then I make the argument, how do you then discount all of those ticket sales?
Because it's your list. You can do whatever the fuck you want to.
Absolutely.
That's what it boils down to. And that's why there's 20 million lists out there that can give you the same information.
And it'll be a different person.
It'll be a different result. Yeah, it'll be a different person at the top of the
different
list.
Outcome.
Different result every time.
Right. And again, nothing against Pollstar, nothing against the work that they did. I'm sure the hours of combing over all of this shit, because I know I did a lot of work this week just finding the information I did. I just thought it was interesting, and I'm just like, Yes, Mac, it is very personal when you go, oh, how's that? I mean, when you look at Metallica, 40-year career, also very few lineup changes.
Yeah.
They're the only band to ever perform on all 7 continents. They have had movies. They have, the symphony combination
SNL.
that they did. I mean, they have just tried to do a lot of different things and stepping outside of their comfort zone. And so then you go, how is that possible that they are not higher on that list? Not that 6 is anything to shake a fucking stick at.
Right.
So, and as Mac, I think you said, the only metal act to be rated that high.
I think it was Grinch, but yeah,
Grinch,
the only metal act to be on that list. So that's and again, I think that goes back to the fan base that you're kind of catering to, right? Obviously some of those bands above them have a wider popularity, just based on the music they're playing.
Yeah, and for all you masturbators at home listening to this, please understand. We understand Elton's on the list, the Rolling Stones are on the list.
Fantastic artists
Bruce Springsteen
in their own right.
But from a generational standpoint, U2, Metallica, Dave Matthews, I mean, they fall into our generation.
Right.
I don't really have a connection to Bruce. I don't
like
really
Bruce
have a connection.
I
like the music.
Yeah.
I just don't have a strong connection to the Stones or Bruce or Elton. I can appreciate their music, but that's not our generation. That's our parents' generation, really, in terms of when they started and came along and really made their mark. So that's why it was like looking at U2, looking at Metallica, and because we do have a personal connection to those bands here from what we like, that's why we focused on those. So for those of you listening at home, please understand, if you're going, why the fuck aren't you talking about the Stones? That's why, right? Because we have a connection. Yeah, I mean, they're propping up fucking straw fucking people right now that are barely alive, So look, at the end of the day, season 3, here we are, we're doing it. Oh, we're really doing it. What is it from Bridesmaids? Oh, she's shitting in the street. She's really doing it. She's doing it. We're just happy to be here week in and week out. We missed the Haas. I would have loved to have had his voice here because I honestly don't know what his opinion would be. Mac, you made your opinion known right out of the gate this week, which is why we had to do this episode. And we thought, what better way than to just have an argument right out of the gate in season 3? None of this touchy-feely bullshit. Let's just have a debate now.
You say it's an argument. It's not, because an argument means,
there's a right and there's a wrong. There's a winner. There's a loser. You've lost. Shut the fuck up. Move on. Criteria is everything.
But the math don't lie.
The math don't lie. That's it.
Erroneous.
That's right. 2 + 2 = 5. The math don't lie. I say it week in and week out. I love doing this with you guys. I appreciate you being here in season 3. Who knew we would make it this far? I'm excited to see what next week brings. I mean, this episode was fun, although we were down by 1. Next week, hopefully he is back, and then we will see what next week brings. Ladies and gentlemen, our outro never changes. Season 3 will be no different. If you would love to drop us a line, go to aspiritedDebate.com. Check out all of the drinks that we have here. My new tequila sunset, my A Spirited Debate tequila sunset. Grinch, I don't even know what yours was called, but it was a number of different drinks kind of slammed together. The Grinch Breeze, the Grinch
Malibu amalgamation.
Breeze. There you go. And then Mac, your Reese's peanut butter cup drink. Sounds good. Don't know if it tastes like
delicious.
A Reese's cup. There you go. Check out all the drinks that we have here. Feel free to drop us a line on aspiritedDebate.com. Topic you'd like us to try, a drink you'd like us to try, or you can always go out to the 4 Horsemen at aspiritedDebate.com. Hit us up there if we can get you on the show. If you have a topic that you would love to debate, that you're like, you know what, these guys have never talked about this, and I'm sick of not hearing my topic talked about. Go ahead and drop us a line, and we will do our best to get you on the show. We'll reach out to you and go, hey, fuckface.
And we'll tell you why you're wrong.
There you go. Mac will tell you succinctly, professionally, why you're wrong, which he's tried to do for us for 2 years, and it hasn't worked. I'm not sure why he thinks it'll be any different with a guest, but he'll give it a shot.
I think I just did. I
there
said you're wrong.
But as always, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Love doing this week in and week out, and we will do this again next week. So we will see you all later. views, information, or opinions expressed during the A Spirited Debate podcast series or any affiliated podcast are solely those of the hosts or guests involved and do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations that the host or guests may or may not be associated with in a professional or personal capacity, unless explicitly stated. While guests are invited to listen, listeners acknowledge that they are not being provided professional advice from the podcast or its guests. The content within the parameters of A Spirited Debate podcast series or any affiliated podcast are for entertainment and educational purposes only. Any views or opinions are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, or individual.